Hi, this is S.G. Brownlow. This week I want to talk a little bit about relationship traumas. So before I do that, maybe I ought to explain what a psychological trauma is. And to me, the simplest definition of a psychological trauma is any time that you experience any emotion that's so intense that you can't regulate it adequately at the time on your own with whatever resources are available to you, including whatever you've learned in past experiences and all of that kind of stuff. And so sometimes things happen to us when we're adults that are very traumatic, obviously. Wars, rapes, natural disasters, those kinds of things are very traumatic because there's some very significant emotional stuff. But most of the time with relationship traumas, our early relationship traumas, especially the ones that really affect our lives, are the things that happen when we're very young, about 3 years old typically. And as I've said before, if you've listened to this, but it bears repeating, what happens when we're very young is that we come up with conclusions about why things happened and what we're supposed to learn from it that make a lot of sense when you're 3, but they're very global and very magical and very idiosyncratic, and they don't have much to do with what actually happened, and they don't do anything to help regulate the emotion. So what we do is, instead of regulating the emotion, what we do is we act based on our learnings, our beliefs. And meanwhile, we keep experiencing the same emotion over and over again because we have this drive to fulfill ourselves, to become whole, to become genuine, to be fully functioning humans that have experienced and mastered every human emotion. And by denying ourselves the ability to experience and master particular emotions, we hold ourselves back. And that's against our programming. And so we keep bumping into these same emotions, which, as I say, generally arose in relationship. And so what we find is that as we get older, they continue to bump up again and again in other relationships, which is why we pick partners who remind us of our parents. And if we have a partner that we don't work something out with, we get divorced or separated or move on, we tend to have other partners that bring up the same emotions in us again and again until we get them resolved. So we have this whole idea in relationships. We develop this idea that everybody should feel sorry for me. Everybody else needs to change. They should realize how much I hurt, and they should just change and quit hurting me. And what I want to tell you this time is that that's really unproductive. Really, the way that we master our relationships and quit having that same pain in our relationships over and over is that we learn to flip both halves of that. And we realize that no, we need to have compassion for the other person in the relationship. And it's us who needs to change. And the first thing that we need to do to change ourselves is to acknowledge that we're bringing a lot of previous trauma from previous relationships into our current relationship that's clouding our judgment, that's clouding the relationship, and that it's our responsibility to resolve that trauma, to feel the emotion, to put the beliefs aside so that we don't have to deal with the beliefs anymore, we don't have to deal with the emotional pain anymore. We can move on and become the fulfilled human beings that we were intended to be. Now that's a mouthful. I know that's a mouthful. And I'm imagining you're listening to this thinking, wow, that sounds great, but I'm just going to tell you that the people that I've worked with have all told me that sounds great, but, and then when they put it into practice, they realize something much greater than they ever imagined. They realize themselves. They realize freedom. Their relationships with their partners improves. Their relationship with their parents improves. Their relationships everywhere improves. It's all about being responsible for yourself and for what you can change, which is only yourself. Now, when you decide that you have come to that point and you need to change, that you realize that you just keep butting into the same issues and the same patterns over and over, and you're sick of it and you're ready to move on, contact me. Drop me an email. Let's talk about it. Chances are it won't take you very long to get on the right track. And maybe I can help you figure out how to do that. Until next week, have a great week, and I'll see you next time with a new video.